Hi, comic book fans. I'm Joe, and welcome again to Anachronic Comics. So today we're starting something really special. Back a couple of years ago, and if you guys haven't watched it, shame on you, but I did a video regarding imitators of Superman. And a good friend of mine, Dave, who's down here in Florida with me, got inspiration from it and started researching Batman. And he's done such a great job with looking at characters and so forth regarding Batman, inspirations for Batman, inspirations after Batman, and so forth. We thought, gee, this looks like it could be a video. Well, it's not just one video. I think we're going to have multiple seasons of this based on all the great work that Dave has done. And so this is kind of season one, episode 0, where we start off, and we'll be doing season 1, which will be about 6 episodes on this. And then we'll see if we'll do some more if you guys like it. So without further ado, let me bring Dave in. Hey,
Hi,
Dave,
Joe.
welcome to Anachronic Comics.
Thank you.
Let's make ourselves a little bit bigger. Let's see how this works. Yeah, that's better. We look better. We're good looking here, right? So, Dave, you're down here with me in Florida. That's how we met. Dave was a very good artist, incidentally, as well. And I thought maybe we could do a little bit of background on you first so people know who you are and
Okay.
why we should listen to you and what you've done, Dave. Because if it was me, I'd be saying, who the hell is this guy, Dave? Why should I be watching these videos? So, Dave, why don't you give me a little bit about your background and focusing obviously on comic books for the most part, but, give us a little bit about you and how you came about, into the comic book world.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, and but I went to
Couldn't tell by your
college.
accent, Dave, that you grew up in Brooklyn.
Well, I'm glad I haven't lost it yet. But I grew up in Brooklyn, but I went to school at NYU in the West Village, and ultimately landed up even working for a brokerage company right in the West Village area. And the West Village was known for its comic book stores. So I'd be I think back then it was Tuesdays, I would go and start picking up all the comic books that I was interested in. There was
That's
also
right,
a place,
Tuesdays. I mentioned
right?
that once. I seem to remember it was Tuesdays, not
Yeah,
Wednesdays.
right,
Right.
right.
Okay. Go ahead.
And of course there was a place in my own neighborhood and I started collecting. Even I went through the phase of buying every black and white comic that came out after a while, especially in the village, the underground comics they used to have that then there. And I found myself, by the time I got married and moved into a house, I had 64 long boxes worth of comics.
And my wife complains about my meager collection.
Yeah, well, my wife did complain a lot about it, and just to show how smart I was, we had this garage with a large ceiling, and I had all these boxes stored on top of shelves in that large ceiling. Of course, that was the hottest place in the entire house, but luckily enough, a lot of them survived. Over the years, especially with recently us downsizing to a small condo, I had gotten rid. At one point, I actually stopped buying individual issues and just picked up trades.
Right.
And I had a library of trades after a while, but I got rid of the 64 boxes. Some of them I donated to the Joe Kubert School of Art in Dover, and others I tried to sell through a friend of mine who owned a good friend of mine, Dan, who owned Dewey's Comic City in Madison, New Jersey. So that was really my interest in comics, and that was big. When I was a kid, I think my favorite was Green Arrow at the time, if I can remember correctly. But shortly after that, I kind of migrated to the Batman character a lot. And
Now you did mention to me that when you were younger, you were really interested in Sherlock Holmes too.
yes,
Did you
yeah,
say that?
yeah. I guess it started out with watching Channel 9 in New York with the Basil Rathbone, Nigel
Yeah.
Bruce movies.
Those old
Uh,
movies, right? They were great. Yeah.
and I started. I even went to one or two Sherlock Holmes birthday events in New York City, where they have the celebration and dinners and talks. But I was interested in Holmes. I did a lot of reading about them. When Nicholas Meyer came out with his 7% Solution, I thought that was a great book and ultimately a good movie. But and I continued on with Sherlock Holmes in parallel with the comics for a while. I did find, however, there are hundreds and hundreds of books, novels, stories, a collection of short stories that people are writing about Holmes, and I found after a while that they started to repeat themselves.
Right,
But the
right,
formulas were always the same. I mean, Meyer broke the patent in the 7% solution, but a lot of people just took the stories from the original canon and just recast them
right.
with different scenarios. So
So,
eventually I got.
I'm sorry. Do you think there's a connection there between your
Oh
affinity
yeah,
for
the
Sherlock Holmes
artist
and
that
then moving over into like the Batman character?
yeah, well, absolutely. I think that I was always one to like solving puzzles, and my father was uh, he ultimately was a detective first grade in NYPD, and I remember him driving in the car with him, and he would say, "Look at that car. What can you tell me about the person inside that car?" And of
Mhm.
course, that like reading license plates, reading bumper stickers, how the condition of the car was, and stuff like that. And I found myself later on in life doing the same thing with my son. So uh, my son David. So I
So you were
think,
a Batman in training as a youth.
well, yeah. And the other similarities was, my job was working with these big, massive computers. And for the early part of my career, I worked evenings. So here I was driving, you know, uh, after midnight through the streets of New York City into Brooklyn, etc., and sometimes seeing some additional things, additional activities that one would question.
Now, did you get that feeling that you wanted to hop out of the car, put your cowl on, and take care of that stuff?
Not really.
No. Well, that's great. That's great. So you become a big Batman fan. So, what are the qualities do you think that makes Batman such a compelling character? Because I mean, look, I'm a big Superman fan. Always was as I grew up. You know, George Reeves' TV show, the whole bit. You know, you can see all that stuff on my channel because I talk about that a lot and have videos on it. I always did like Batman as well, though. But right now I would say he's basically the number one character at DC. I mean,
Correct.
there's really no doubt about that. All the books being published and all of that. So, what makes him compelling to you, or was compelling to you anyway?
I think that the one thing that makes Batman different than any other character, and the reason why he's so often emulated throughout not only DC Elseworlds and Marvel and other publishers, is the fact that he's human. It's the fact that he could be any man, he could be every man,
Hmm.
and he chose to be this man. Okay, this person who has a mission, and his life is dedicated to that mission. There is
Hmm.
no magic power ring. There's no ability to fly. There's no web shooters. It's him,
Hmm.
and his constant battle to avenge people.
It's interesting. Unfortunately, I don't have it here in Florida. I did mention it. I was on a show with it was called The Usual Suspects or something like that. I forget, but it was a show that Rob Fatstacks had where we talked about Batman. Very interesting show. If I remember it, if I could find it again, I'll link it in the description below. But one of the things that I brought up just real kind of quickly was a book I was reading at the time, and basically it's called Becoming Batman. And it what it did was it basically told basically the story that you mentioned right now. You know how someone could potentially really become the Batman. You know, and so pretty interesting book. I don't know if it's true and if it would work, but it's a pretty interesting book, I thought, and it might be something that people would be interested in. Okay, well, one of the things that we spoke about a lot, and I think are going to come up in these shows, and we're going to give you guys a taste of what's going to come up in a few minutes. But you talk about a lot of parallel worlds as well, and that type of concept. Uh, why does that fascinate you so much? With respect to or intrigues you about these parallel worlds that we're going to be talking about.
The thing is, um, from that very original episode from Star Trek, in which they landed up on a planet in which Spock has a beard and Kirk is a militant.
Oh, the alternate world, yeah.
Right, right,
Um,
right. and I think that was probably my first introduction to that.
Oh,
Maybe, yeah. And then probably second time was Dark Shadows, in which they went into parallel universes
well, that
where
I
the
didn't know.
characters where the characters were not exactly the same as they were
Mm-hmm.
before.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't know. I guess the fascination with that is what if the infinite possibilities of your life, or where you would take your life. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I always found interesting. When they did Gotham by Gaslight, which I think was the original Elseworld. Um, it's not the original Parallel World. Obviously, Earth Two was okay, but to actually take a story that was outside of a continuity, and just
Yeah.
develop a whole universe based on a premise. I was a big fan of that,
Yeah.
and I actually still had a copy of it shrink wrapped, and I can't find it. but
You
but
still have
but
but you got rid of all your comics and stuff, right? You just
yeah,
said,
but
do
I
you
thought
still have
that
that
that one I
somewhere?
would have held on to. Believe
Oh,
me.
okay. Yeah.
But and of course the Marvel equivalent with the What If stories, I found very fascinating, and as we will discover as we go through this, you know, it in DC it just opened up on the Batman character more than any other character that they had. They
Yeah.
put him, the common man, into different situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And they put him in stories too. Remember when he got kicked back in time and had to make his way back? He was
Right.
different characters throughout history as he went through
Yep.
that too,
Yep.
which was, and that was part of continuity. So that was kind of weird with respect to that. Okay, so we're going to focus on Batman, Batman analogs and whatever else. So you chose Batman. Now, without giving away too much, was there any particular, I'll say, version of Batman, or something connected to Batman, a character that you found really, really interesting?
Yeah. DC did a series called Real World as opposed to Elseworld,
Hmm.
and it was to take some of their primary characters and develop them as if they were in our world, our existing world, non-powered, but just individuals that kind of adopted the ethos, the the drive of the superheroes of their own continuity.
It sounds familiar to me as well. But there's so many Batman stories, and some of them stick with you, but some of them you just kind of remember when somebody talks about them. All right. Well, okay. So, how did you go about doing this? And then we can maybe show people a couple of the characters that we're going to be talking about during at least season one of this show.
So one of the things I thought about is that uh, when we how would you define Batman? What is his characteristics? And I kind of made up a list. So then I started thinking about, okay, how do we go address this? Now in the talk today, we're actually going to focus on the characters that Bob Kane and Bill Finger identified as helping them develop Batman.
Yeah, and
In, in,
here's what you were talking about. If you want to
right,
just
right.
get into it a little bit more, I'm going to see if I can make this. Well, I guess let me make this a little bit bigger. I think I can make it a little bigger.
So the one
Yeah.
point characteristics are things like a person being a detective, a vigilante,
Hmm.
intelligent, athletic, a skilled fighter, master of disguise, escape artist, affluent, based in a certain area, non lethal, having a group affiliation, a colorful rogues gallery, non superpowered, and also having an adversarial relationship with law enforcement.
So you analyzed basically Batman
Right.
and came up with these characteristics. Some of a 1 point level because they're important, but some
But
at
they're
a two
also
point level, which are
widely used. If we
yeah.
went just with this, it really, you'd be talking about a lot of other characters.
Okay.
And then there was a second set that I felt really fine tunes what makes Batman Batman.
So you've gone through this, and then you I mentioned, I guess, I don't know. I mentioned that you had seen my video on Superman imitators, which I didn't go through this big analysis you did. I just looked at these characters and said, yeah, it's like Superman. Yeah, this is Superman. This is like Superman. Some of the powers are just like Superman. And I'm sure that I probably missed a bunch because I didn't do an in-depth thing, but I think I had a good, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 of them or whatever that I came up with. So you saw that, and this gave you the impetus to go through and analyze Batman. But you went a lot further than that because, and what we're going to talk about now in a couple of minutes is you started going through kind of Batman imitators, I guess, if you want to call it that. But then as we were talking about it, you realized that Batman in some ways is an imitation of prior characters himself, right?
Right. And that will really go into in episode 1. I actually have a Batman literary family tree that I put together. What inspired Batman? What were the inspirations for Batman, and what were those inspirations? And you'll see that there are some common links uh, among the characters, that they all came from one particular uh, literary character.
Okay. All right. So we've talked for a while. I think people really understand what's going on here now. So why don't we go? We're going to give them a sample of a couple of characters, right? That's
Right.
what we're going to do. All right. What's the first one you want to bring up?
Well, I think the first one would probably be the what inspired uh, Bob Kane. It's a character called the Bat, and
Okay.
it
Let
was
me bring that.
actually
Let me bring that up. Let's see. Okay. All right. There it is.
and it's actually from a 1926 American silent comedy mystery film, uh, directed by Roland West, which was based on a 1920 Broadway play, The Bat, by Mary Roberts Reinhardt and Avery Hopwood. And it features a man dressed as a bat that steals emeralds and murders their owner. And the
Yeah.
bat leaves a bat-shaped note for the chief of police.
Right. I just watched the first scene and I have to say, I thought it was pretty cool. I'm definitely going to sit down and watch the rest of it. But so that it was really, really cool. And he has like big ears for his like in this bat thing and so forth. And after he made the person, I think he pulled somebody through a window and whatever made the guy fall after he stole the necklace. And then he has this bat, almost like a batarang almost, but it's in the shape of a bat, and he just throws it in there, and he's taunting the police, on that. It's pretty cool. I thought it was a really, really cool movie. I don't know if I could bring up some of that and play it, and they might just decide to.
There also was in the movie, I don't know if you got to it yet, there is a scene in which a morph is on a headlight of a car and projects the image of what looks like a bat against the wall.
Yeah, I didn't get to that one, but
okay,
but that's why I said there's so much there that it looks really cool. Let me see if I could bring it up.
That might have been the precursor of the bat signal.
Well, it sounds that way, right? Let me see if I could just bring up and we play a little bit of it, and hopefully they won't ding me on. This has got to be, public stuff, right? I mean, it can't be something that
from 1929. Yeah.
Love the music. I'm gonna play till the beginning because the warning in the front is cool. Isn't that cool? I love that. Now, come on, that Finger and Katie song is great. And look at this great stuff they have on this. Look at this. gun. He's ready for the bat. Is that Alfred? Everything's okay. I think that's cool. I just thought that
Yeah,
was so. I mean, I tell you something. It made me want to watch the rest of it. You know, because I want to know who the bat is.
that's
Yeah.
right.
So that's pretty cool, don't you think? So I mean, to me, clearly, it's a they watched this thing and it had to have played a part in what they were looking to, what they did with the Batman. I mean, it had to be. I
Absolutely.
mean, all right. So that was one, and obviously, you would get into it a little bit more, show what the similarities are, and so forth with respect to that, right?
Right.
And we get a little bit more of a deep dive. And there was one other character you wanted to at least touch on today, right?
Yes, the
I
other
mean,
character is probably better known than the Bat, was the Phantom
right.
by Lee Falk, and he first appeared in King Features, uh, a, a daily newspaper strip, in February of 1936. Now, he was a costume crime fighter who operated in a fictional African country of Bengalia. In the strip, he was the 21st in the line of crime fighters. And dating back to 1536. So he was a whole series of phantoms, one son after the other taking up that role. And his father, uh, or rather the original Phantom's father, was killed by some pirates, and that motivated the first Phantom into becoming this vigilante in Africa.
So again, another murder, another type of superhero birth from the murder. Yeah, cool. So,
And as he didn't have robins, but he had a mountain wolf called Devil, and a horse called Hero, and a falcon called Fracas.
wow.
So they were his sidekicks, if you were.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing was Lee Falk originally envisioned this a gray costume, and even considered calling him by the name of the Gray Ghost instead of the
Oh,
Phantom. And also, Lee Falk was inspired by tales of King Arthur and El Cid, and modern fictional heroes like Zorro, Tarzan, and the Jungle Book's Mowgli. So that's what That's what gave him the jungle characteristics. That's why the place took place. The stories take place in Africa.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. What's interesting about that is you just mentioned Zorro, and I think Kane even said that he saw Zorro, and it was like a so here you got a number of different characters that build on other characters that build on other characters that, as we'll see in episode number one, eventually likely became the Batman. You know,
right,
it's just
right.
interesting the way that worked out. Yeah. So
So,
are there
so,
any other similarities between Batman and the Phantom?
yes, I was. Thanks for bringing it up. He had his bat cave was someplace called the Skull Cave,
Okay.
and it was in a mountain that looked like that almost looked like a human skull. Okay,
Mm.
and of course he was motivated by the murder of his father by Rama Singh. He had a special gun belt with specialized guns on it. He did have a confidant, which was this tribal chief named Guram
Mm.
from a local pygmy tribe. He had a symbolic calling card, which was a sword and skull ring. The sword ring was to mark you as being uh, targeted by the Phantom. The skull ring was marked as you being protected by the Phantom.
Oh,
So he
okay.
left the impression with that. Uh, and the other thing was not in the it's his original incarnation, but later on he's affiliated with a group like the JLA, if you were, called the
Yeah.
Defenders of the Earth. So
Okay. That's cool. All right. I guess we can move to wrap this up and make us big again here. All right. So to me, this is pretty exciting, and I've seen some of the written stuff there, and I can't wait to hear more about some of these and the various characters. So we're gonna have after this episode 0 of season 1, we're gonna have 6 other episodes. You'll probably see the Bat and the Phantom again as we get a little bit more information about them. So hopefully, as we go through this, you'll find it interesting enough to come back and watch it. And this is the type of stuff where I need your comments below because this stuff is blowing my mind, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of opinions about it and a lot of information about it. And I think Dave, thanks for bringing this to my attention. Thanks for saying that help put it on my video channel. God knows I look for stuff to put on the video channel, and this is easy because you're doing the work. I just got to ask you some questions, I think. So I think that makes it easier for me.
my
And
pleasure.
with that, we will see you soon on episode 1 of this show, which we've got a name for it, but I'm not going to reveal it right now. All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.